Hi everyone. I'm sitting down for the second time to try to do this ayahuasca experience video. I had done one the other night, but when I was playing it back, I realized that I had forgotten a few important things. So I'm just going to re-record this. So what is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a sacred plant medicine um, from the Amazon forest. Many people travel to Peru, um, as well as, I believe, Brazil and Costa Rica or other places. Um, but the medicine itself is obtained in the Amazon forest. It is made with the leaves of I believe, the chacruna plant, which contains a pretty substantial amount of DMT. And it's also made with the ayahuasca vine. So they mix these two plants together. They boil it down over about a period of 24 hours. And at the end of that 24 hours, they have this, it's like a sludge, I guess. It's a brew, a tea that you drink. And it is one of the most powerful psychedelics in the world. However, this is not a drug. It's definitely not for recreational purposes at all. It's used as a medicine. Um, and anybody that partakes of ayahuasca should never use it as something that is recreational. That's a huge disrespect to the medicine, and you would probably have a very bad experience if you did that. In fact, most psychedelics are supposed to be used as medicine and not for recreational purposes, even though they have been for many years. Um, so that's basically what ayahuasca is. If you're more interested on what it is or how it's made, there's plenty of resources out there on the internet. So my journey actually started about 4 years ago. I was watching it was a Chelsea Handler series, and in one of these episodes, she went to Peru and she did ayahuasca. And as soon as I saw this episode, I wanted to know more about about ayahuasca. And so for the last 4 years, I have been doing my research and just waiting for my opportunity um, to do ayahuasca. And very recently, that opportunity was afforded to me. And so I decided to go ahead and do it. I felt like, the universe was lining up and it was my time. And it did happen at a really good time because I've been doing a lot of work for quite a while now, but mainly over the last several months, trying to heal from like past trauma and, really just trying to become a better person overall. So the ayahuasca was just sort of like the icing on top of everything that I've been doing. So what is ayahuasca good for? Ayahuasca is really great for people with PTSD, any sort of traumatic backgrounds, incidents. It's great for depression, anxiety, and it's also really good for certain like physical ailments and stuff. And I'll get into that a little later on what it did for me physically. I'm not sure if I mentioned it's good for getting over addictions as well. So I found out about this ceremony in my state here in Arizona, and I went ahead and I submitted an application to attend the ceremony. I did have to fill out a fairly lengthy health questionnaire. Ayahuasca can be dangerous if it is mixed with certain medications. You also have to do a strict diet a couple of weeks prior to the ceremony. because it can interact with certain medications. For instance, like SSRIs, antidepressants. It's actually quite dangerous to mix with those. So that's why they require you to fill out a health questionnaire. So I did that. I was accepted to the ceremony. This was, I think, like 3 weeks, just 3 weeks prior to the ceremony. So I didn't have too much time to get ready, but I did start the diet, and yeah, that wasn't too fun. But you're supposed to cleanse and detoxify your body to allow the medicine to work better. So. Um, So the morning of the ceremony, it started snowing here really hard. We got hit with several inches within just a couple of hours. And I was really afraid that I wasn't going to be able to make it to the ceremony because the highway I needed to take got closed. So I kept an eye on it, and they ended up plowing it and reopening it about mid-afternoon. So as soon as I saw it was open, I left. So the drive there was extremely beautiful. I went from like these snowy mountains down to the beautiful deserts. You know, they have all the saguaro cactus, and the sunset was amazing that night. It was so amazing. So the whole drive down there is probably about 4 hours. I was just kind of enjoying it, and I was very nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect during my ceremony. I didn't know what was going to be brought up. I've heard all different kinds of things. But I finally arrived around, I believe it was like 7 o'clock. And as soon as I walked into that place, the energy there just felt so comforting and inviting. There was maybe around, I don't know, 25-ish people. And they all made me feel very welcome. And so it was at a house, it had a very large space that we all just kind of threw down our sleeping mats and our sleeping bags, and we were all just in one room together. There was a nice fireplace, and the views were amazing. So I just kind of relaxed there for a little while. The ceremony doesn't start until about 10 p.m. So I was just talking to everybody, getting to know them, and asking them about their experiences the night prior. It was a 3-night ceremony, and I attended the last 2 nights. So I was just kind of getting an idea for, what people experienced their first night. And around 8:30, they started offering like hape. Some people call it rape. It's basically a sacred tobacco snuff, I guess you could say. It gets blown up the nose. It's very intense. I can only describe it as like an explosion in your head. I don't know. I don't know how to explain the feeling, but once the burn goes away, you feel very centered and grounded and relaxed, and it just kind of helps prepare you for the medicine. A lot of people do hape in their regular life, and I have actually been doing that since my ceremonies. Actually did it right before the video to kind of, just get myself grounded and hopefully not ramble on too much. So, so that started around 8:30. Everybody just kind of chilled out and meditated, stretched, and just got our minds prepared. We were thinking about our intentions. You should always set intentions before you do ayahuasca. So my particular intentions were to just basically, anything that I have not healed myself, as far as trauma, anything like that. I just wanted the medicine to help me release anything that I have not been able to release. And because, sometimes we hold on to things subconsciously. My second intention was to heal my physical body. I have really bad back issues. I have several bulging discs. A couple of them are herniated. I've got degenerative disc disease and other things wrong with me. And chronic fatigue. I've dealt with chronic fatigue almost my whole adult life. And that's a big reason why I don't post as many videos as I feel I should. Just because I'm so tired from my regular job and my Etsy stuff that, anything extra just feels like a huge chore. So those are my intentions for the first night. I was one of the first to go up to take the medicine because it was my first experience. So I went up, and through all my research, I've heard that the tea is very nasty and gross, and they offered some orange slices. But when I took the medicine, it didn't taste bad to me. It wasn't delicious, but I didn't feel the need to, eat an orange slice or anything afterwards. It had a little bit of a bitter aftertaste, but nothing too bad. So I drank the medicine. I went back to my sleeping mat and I just kind of laid down, and I was watching everybody else take their ayahuasca. And I just sort of closed my eyes. I was thinking about my intentions, and I ended up falling asleep. So I was woken up by the facilitators. They were playing the most beautiful music. They were like chanting and singing this beautiful song, kind of an upbeat song, and it woke me up. So I was feeling something when I woke up. I can't really describe how I felt, but I didn't feel as if I was like really experiencing anything much at all. So they ended up offering a second dose right around that time. So I went up, I got my second dose. I went and sat back down, and I was just kind of enjoying everything that was going on around me. There were people purging, which is that is something that the medicine does. Some forms of purging, probably the most common is vomiting. There's burping, going to the bathroom, yawning, laughing, crying. All of those are considered forms of purging. So I was just kind of observing everybody, and then the visuals started. So the edges of everything just sort of softened up, and everything just started looking very beautiful. So I don't actually remember too much of that first night. I do remember one of the first things that was brought up to me was the death of my best friend. I won't get too much into that story, but her and I were best friends throughout junior high and high school. We were in marching band together, and she ended up talking me into joining the army with her when we were both in college. At first I told her no, and then she ended up talking me into it. Ended up being one of the best decisions of my life, by the way. But long story short, we both get deployed to Iraq. We weren't in the same units, but we were over there at the same time, March 2003, during the initial invasion. And when we came back, she just wasn't the same. She did some kind of messed up things to me and my friends, and I ended up ending our friendship. About a year after that, she passed away. And so I was left with all of these feelings of guilt for, not making up with her and just throwing away all of those years of beautiful friendship. So this is what was brought up to me. It took me back to the time that she did those things, and I felt all the hurt again. I felt how it made me feel when it had happened. And it's weird because I thought that I had dealt with all of this stuff prior to this, but apparently I had not. And so I just started crying, and I pretty much cried all night long. Um, and it just felt really good to get those emotions out. I don't cry too often. So yeah, it just felt really good to cry. Um, and then shortly after I was thinking about those things, um, they came around and they offered some basil water, and I was really thirsty, and I drank almost the whole cup. And the basil water ended up making me purge. So this was the first time that I got nauseated and felt like purging. And some people have a hard time actually letting go and vomiting, but I didn't have an issue with it. It just came out. And I remember as I was purging into my bucket, it seemed bottomless. Like there was no bottom to my bucket. Like it kind of went out into eternity. I don't know. It's so weird. um, but I remember I purged hard. I was like out of breath, and then right after I purged, the visuals got so intense. I don't remember much of the visuals, but I do remember them being just super intense. And um, how do I describe this? It's almost like I saw the visual, everything going into this, I don't know, like a wormhole or a vortex or something. It was all just like pouring into this wormhole, and it was really like I remember a lot of pinks and reds and stuff like that. I don't know if that means anything. um, Shortly after that, I heard somebody sobbing in the bathroom, and he sobbed harder than I've ever heard anybody sob before, and it made me cry. you know? And so I'm an empath. If you don't know what an empath is, it's just somebody who is susceptible to feeling like the emotions of others, and you can pick up on the energies of people, places, and things. And so I felt his pain. I felt his pain, and it hurt really bad. And I remember thinking, like, what happened to you, like, to cause that much pain? Everything that I've been through was like nothing compared to that. And then I thought, I'm like, I am an empath. If you're an empath and you're watching this, you know how we tend to go through life and we try to protect ourselves, and not try not to feel all of this like emotional garbage that we're always exposed to. And I told myself, I'm like, you know what, it's okay to feel what people are feeling. So I just sort of allowed myself to feel what was going on in the room at that point, like just to feel everybody's energy. And it was just really beautiful. Even like the sadness, the purging, I felt the joy. It was just like all these different emotions I was feeling all at once, and it was really beautiful. And I sort of learned from that it's okay for me to go around and not have to feel like I need to protect myself from all of that all of the time. Um, uh, I tend to stay at home. I'm a homebody, and it's because I just don't like going out and exposing myself to that stuff. But it's okay. Um, So I do remember that the whole room felt connected. Like everybody in the room, I felt connected to everybody. So everybody seemed like things would go in waves. So everybody would be purging at the same time. Everybody would cry at the same time or laugh at the same time, or we all just felt connected. Um, so after a while, I just remember looking out the window at the stars, and they were so beautiful, and I was still crying. Like I cried all night long, y'all. And I ended up falling asleep at some point. Well, I woke up early the next day. And so I woke up, I was looking out the windows at the beautiful views, just trying to process everything that had happened to me the night prior. And I started crying again. Like I could not stop crying. But it was a good thing. It felt really, really good. So after a while, I got up and everybody was starting to wake up. So we just kind of sat around and we were talking about our experiences. They cooked an amazing breakfast for all of us, and it felt really good to eat because I had been on the dieta for a couple of weeks. So I kind of stuffed my face. And yeah, so everybody sat around the table eating breakfast and talking, and everybody just felt like family to me. Like I just loved each and every person that was there in that experience with me. And I wasn't tired. I didn't get tired until about 3 in the afternoon, which is really weird for me. Typically, even if I go to bed an hour late, like I feel it the next day. But I felt so good that day. So I took a nap right around 3. I woke up around 6, and people were starting to arrive for the second ceremony. I chose to stay there all weekend. Some people stayed in hotels, and some people lived locally, so they would go back to their house. So everybody started arriving, and the second night there were more plant medicines available to try before the ceremony. I didn't participate in any of those except for the hape again. I just didn't, at that point I just didn't feel as if they were necessary, but I'll try them in the future. So I was just kind of observing everybody doing the different medicines, and then we started our second ceremony. I was one of the first ones to go up, and again, it wasn't that bad. So I took my drink. Let me backtrack a little bit. So before we started that ceremony, we went around the whole room and everybody said their intentions out loud. And there are a lot of beautiful intentions in there. But I'd have to say the most common one was just love. And that's important for this next part. So we start the second night. I go up, and I remember I was holding my cup of medicine, and I remember saying my intentions in my head before I drank it. And my intentions were just love, like love, light, peace, all of that. And I drank it. I went and sat back down on my mat, and then I ended up falling asleep again. From what I've read, it's actually an honor to go to sleep after you've taken ayahuasca. Apparently, the medicine is doing really deep work at that point when you fall asleep. And again, I was woken up by their beautiful music, their chanting, their dancing. Like the energy in the room was just on fire. It was amazing. So when I woke up the second night, I didn't feel anything at all. And I started to get a little worried. I was like, am I going to feel anything at all tonight? Is it going to work for me? So I go up to the facilitator and I ask for a second dose. He asked me how I was doing, and I told him I wasn't feeling anything at all. So I think he blessed the ayahuasca, and then he blessed me and did some stuff. So I drank my second dose. I sat back down, and I was just enjoying what was going on around me, just watching everybody and their own experiences. Um, and I'd say about 20 to 30 minutes later, the visuals started again. And everything just looked so beautiful to me. It was so beautiful. It's so hard to explain. I guess I would liken it to like a Van Gogh painting. Um, yeah, it looked a lot like a Van Gogh painting. Everything did. Um, so then I'm in my experience, and I'm just listening to the facilitators play the most beautiful music. I I can't even explain how beautiful this music was. It made me cry the first night, every time they played, and I was already crying, but every time they played, it was so beautiful to me that I just had to cry because it was so beautiful. So I was just sitting there, I was listening to their music, and I remember somebody at the ceremony, he got up and he started dancing, and he's very like childlike, I guess you could say, just like a free spirit. And he was up there dancing and he was making everybody laugh. We were laughing so hard. And we weren't laughing at him, but it was just, I don't know, like his energy and his dancing. It was just making us laugh. We were just happy and having a good time. And I remember thinking, like, this is just so amazing. Like, I'm having such a great time right now. Like, I was so incredibly happy to be there. Um, and then it started getting a little more intense, like that happy feeling. And then I started just feeling love. Now, this is where it gets really hard to explain. Um, I just felt just like unconditional love. Like everything was fine. Everything was perfect. Um, I started feeling like I was like traveling somewhere, even though I was aware of where I was. I felt like I was like traveling somewhere. Very hard to explain. And I was sort of taken. This is where it gets very similar to like a near-death experience. I've been researching near-death experiences since my early 20s, so a long time now. And near-death experiences is really what triggered my spiritual awakening, because I knew there had to be some truth to these near-death experiences. And it just sort of opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I was taken back through my life, from the present day all the way back to when I was in the womb. Like, I remember the feeling of being in the womb. It was very comforting. Even though I was born to a mom who hated me, she, that is one of my like traumatic things. That, yeah. But yeah, I do remember it felt very comfortable in there. And I was even taken back to, this is gonna sound crazy, the fertilization of my egg. Like, I even saw the cells dividing into like 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, and 32, and so on and so forth. It was crazy. I still really don't know what that was all about, but um and then after that, like the unconditional love just sort of intensified. And I remember like all night long, I kept thinking like, this is so amazing. Like I never want this night to end. Um, I never wanted it to end. It felt so good and comfortable and and yeah, like it's putting a huge smile on my face right now just thinking about it. And then I started thinking about everything in my life, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. I was grateful for every single thing that has happened in my life so far. Um, Everything was just perfect. You know, my life, I wouldn't be who I am without all of the challenges that have been presented to me, you know, from the time I was born. Um, you know, and I like the person that I am. I think it's important that we all love ourselves, you know, no matter what we've been through, what we've done to other people. You know, you have to learn at some point to forgive yourself um, for things that you've done in the past or maybe things that you're going through today. And just learn to love yourself because love is all that matters. Um, you know, and we need to take the hard things that happen to us in this life, these challenges, um, they're here to help us grow, um, you know, and evolve spiritually and as a human. Um, so just, you know, live your life every day. And yeah, that's some of the lessons that I came out of that second night with. Yeah, I remember being extremely grateful for my family, my daughter, my dad, all my friends, and I was really thankful for everybody there at the ceremony. They really are my family now. And that experience was, um, it was the closest I've came to how I felt in the military. So the reason I liked the military so much is because of the camaraderie and like the structure and you know, I haven't really found that since I've been out of the military and I miss it all the time. And so yeah, that experience was as close to that or maybe even better. So yeah, so I my whole night went like that. It was just pure bliss for me. And yeah, we laughed a lot that night. We laughed so much. And yeah, I laughed more than I normally do, which sounds crazy because y'all know how much I laugh in my videos. um, let's see. Oh, and that second night we all felt connected as well. And I do remember at some point the whole room got just so quiet. You could hear a pin drop in there. And it was like we were all just enjoying that moment of silence. We were all aware of it. And the whole night, I just felt like everybody was feeling the same things as me. And then talking with everybody the next day, I did find out that most of the people did feel how I felt that night, that unconditional love, a connection to everything in the universe. Um, Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. So I think that takes me back to the intentions that everybody had expressed before our ceremony. I think that really sort of set the it just sort of set the atmosphere for that night for everyone. So I tried to stay awake for as long as possible that night because I really didn't want that night to end. I remember telling myself, don't ever forget what this feels like. Like, bring yourself back to this place whenever you need to. And so far, that has I've been able to bring myself back to that place whenever I do think about it. Um, But eventually I did fall asleep. It was maybe around like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I woke up early again. And I remember I was just kind of bummed out that it was all over. um, but yeah, everybody started waking up again and we ate breakfast again and just talked about that night. And yeah, I really miss everybody that was there. Um, that is one thing. I've never been like lonely. I've never had an issue with being lonely. I've always been very comfortable being by myself. Um, and now I'm having these feelings of loneliness, and it's such a foreign feeling to me. um, yeah, so that's been kind of hard to process. It's been like a little over a week since the ceremony, and that's been the hardest part of my integration, is just having these feelings of like loneliness or like I'm missing something in my life. So we all ate breakfast and we just kind of chilled out for the rest of the morning. I kind of helped clean up, and I was giving Reiki to somebody. Um, that was another thing. So I got my Reiki certification probably about 4 years ago, and I haven't really used it. And that was one thing that the medicine brought up to me, was that I needed to start um, sharing the Reiki with people. So I don't know how I'm gonna do that or fit that into my schedule, but I'll have to make it happen. um, and I left around noon, I think. And I hugged everybody goodbye, and then I left, and the whole ride home was amazing. I was just so happy. Um, oh, so let me go back to the physical healing that I was telling you guys about earlier in my back. During the second night, I felt the medicine working on my spine. So it started at the base of my spine, and it felt like my spine was being hugged. It was very warm. It was very comforting, and it went all the way up to the base of my skull. I also felt it working on my heart. At times it felt kind of painful, but not in a bad way. And then it also worked on my eyes. So I was like laying down and I had my eyes closed, and I just felt this really warm feeling in my eyes. It felt really, really good. Also, shortly after that, with the eyes, I saw this entity. It was a very dark figure. I had my eyes closed. It's a very dark figure, but I didn't feel anything negative or like evil or anything like that from it. And I remember I opened my eyes because I wasn't sure if maybe one of the facilitators was right there, and maybe I was just sensing one of them. But there was nobody there. And when I shut my eyes again, it was gone. So I don't really know what that was about. But like I said, it didn't feel like anything negative or anything like that. So I hope I'm not forgetting anything else. I don't think that I am. So once you're done with your ayahuasca ceremony, then you start your integration. So the only thing that I can compare this integration period to is coming back from a deployment. You're not the same person. You're changed, and it's hard to find people to talk to about the experience, because a lot of people don't even know what ayahuasca is or what it does. When they find out it's a psychedelic, they think, oh, well, like they think you were like partying or something. So yeah, that's the really hard part, is just not having anybody here that I can talk to. But I've been staying connected with a lot of people from the ceremony, and so I am able to reach out to them if I ever feel the need to, and that's been really wonderful. And I miss each and every one of them so much. I am going back for a second ceremony next month, and I can't wait. I'm not really putting many expectations on what to expect with my second ceremony. I'm just going to allow the medicine to do what it does and decide what I need to work on and see in my experience or feel. I don't really know what else to say, y'all. Except I am a changed person. I'm very grateful now. I was before, but definitely not at this level. My chronic fatigue is much better. I do sort of feel it starting to come back, but the last week has been amazing. I've been waking up pretty early and just feeling really great throughout the day, really happy. My back feels good. Yeah. So it seems all the intentions that I went in there with, I was given. So I'll have to start thinking about my intentions for the next one. So I'm going to set intentions, but not expectations. Yeah. If you feel the medicine calling you, definitely listen, and it'll find you. They call her Mother Ayahuasca. So she is the spirit that inhabits the medicine. I do remember talking to her. A lot of people say that she talks back to them. I don't remember if I actually experienced that. But I remember talking to her, and I felt her. And I still feel her to this day. She has a very nice like presence, very loving, and but I've heard that she can not be so nice at other times. I know this sounds really crazy. But unless you've done it yourself, it's gonna sound really crazy. Yeah. Do your own research. There are plenty of other beautiful ayahuasca experiences on YouTube. I know I listened to my fair share of them before I did it myself, and yeah, if you feel called to it, it'll find a way to you. It is starting to be more readily available here in the U.S., which is a really great thing. One thing that it did not help me with is my cigarette smoking. I smoke cigarettes, and I really wanted to have that addiction taken away, but I guess it's not that time yet. Maybe next time. But yeah. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Just comment down below, and I may do some updates in the future on how my integration is going. Maybe do like one in a month or 2 months, and I can let you know how I'm feeling as far as the chronic fatigue and my back and all of that. But like I said, I am going to another ceremony in about a month, so I'm very excited. All right, y'all. Well, I really hope that I didn't ramble on too much. The video is not actually as long as I thought it was going to be, so that's a good thing. I tried to keep it as short as possible. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful night, and I'll see you soon. Bye.